This time I'd like to call the June 4th special meeting of Planning and Zoning Commission to order. Let the record show that all members are present except for Steve Barrow, Julio Dumas, and Paige Becknell. And at this time I'd like to open up the floor for public comment. Anyone wishing to speak on any item on the agenda that's not on the agenda, please come forward, and you will have 3 minutes to talk. No one wishing to speak. Public comment period is closed. Item number 4, discussion of the new engineering review agency. I think everybody is aware from the last meeting that our engineer review agency has resigned, and also the engineer with the parish that was supplementing their review has also resigned his position. So at this time there is no one on staff or on retainer to review those documents for us. And at this time we'd like to entertain discussion on a new engineering review agency, and I'd like to call on Ricky Compton to give us a little staff history and recommendation, please.
Well, as you know, Chris Ewing has resigned the position, and as of May 31st we have no engineer on staff. And that's the reason we called this emergency meeting, because we feel it's really pertinent that we get this solved as quickly as possible. What we'd like the commission to do tonight is to approve giving a contract to Fort and Tablada, a 6-month interim contract that will allow us to work with them to review projects that come through the parish. We are going to still take applications and application fees through the parish. We will set up a new process where we review plans with the applicants and Fort and Tablada. When the engineering review agency has completed their review, the fees will be paid directly to Fort and Tablada, and the plans will then come to the commission for approval.
Okay. Thank you, Ricky. Commissioners have any questions?
Ricky, the fees being paid, those fees are going to be paid by the applicant directly to Fort and Tablada? Or are they going to come through? They're going to come through the parish. They're going to come through the plan department and then be paid. Because I'm looking at paragraph where the engineer review agency agrees to submit a monthly statement of services performed, indicating the project worked on, hours served on, rate of pay, and persons working on the said project. So
the idea was that the applicant would pay an application fee to the parish, and then any engineering review fees incurred would be paid to Fort and Tablada. The contract language here was really just this isn't the actual contract. We haven't had a contract submitted to Fort and Tablada yet. This is the contract that we had drafted for CSRS, and so the wording may just need to be tweaked a little bit so that the language is the fees will be paid by the applicant to the engineering review agency and not the parish.
So what we have in front of us is not the actual contract.
It's not. This was the contract from CSRS, and once again, I was changing the names of the applicant, and just for your review, because once again, we needed your permission before we could work with Fort and Tablada moving forward.
Because I mean, without having the actual contract in front of me, I have no. What checks and balances are we going to have in place? Who's going to actually be reviewing this information? Is it going to be an engineer? Is it going to be a drafting person? Who's going to? We have no idea who's going to be doing the work or what is. While it is our job to work in the best interest of the parish, the people of this parish, we also have to, we have an obligation to work with the developers and not put any undue hardship or burden on them. So I'd like to get a little more clarification on this.
I'm Ann Trappe. I am the president and CEO of Fort Nablata. I'm also a registered professional engineer in civil and environmental engineering. Our firm has almost 40 employees. We are actually and have been doing this same type of work for the Livingston Parish Planning Commission for a little over 8 years now. We have engineers who review and go over all the processes. I don't think that because of the fault of Fort Nablata, any deadlines have not been met that were stipulated by the Planning Commission in Livingston Parish. We keep very tight records of when things are submitted to us, when things get submitted back to the engineers of record for the development. I think the developers that we work with in Livingston are probably going to be a lot of the same people. The engineering firms who do those developments are going to be a lot of the same people who do your work here in Ascension Parish. We have very good relationships with those people. I don't see this as, I think if you ask any of them, what the relationship's been like in Livingston, I think it's been excellent. So, we are here to protect the parish, but yes, we do work very closely with the developers and make sure that their engineers, know where we stand. We've done a project within Ascension Parish. The Eagles Landing subdivision development was within when you were chairperson of this planning commission, so we understand your processes. The item that I think Ricky's trying to implement here is something that we found very successful in Livingston Parish, but it's purely up to your discretion as to whether or not you want to use that process. What it does for the parish is it saves the parish money, because the developer who's spending millions of dollars on a development ought to spend just a little bit more to have an engineer review for the planning commission, rather than it coming out of the parish coffers. Now those fees are paid directly to us, or directly to whoever your engineer review agency is, and there's essentially no cost of review to the parish. That's the way it's been working for Livingston. It's been working great. At one time, we were they had fees set. The parish was losing money on based on those particular fees. What then happened is the money started going through the Livingston Parish Planning Commission, then to Fort Nablata. What was happening, though, is we would sign off on something and the developer may not have paid his fees. It's really tough to get them to pay for it after you've signed off on it. It's like, do I really need to? It's just a lot tougher. What happens now is they pay the fees directly to Fort Nablata, and we don't sign off on it until the check is in my bookkeeper's hand. So it just keeps the paperwork straight. That's what it helps to do. It's purely up to you as to whether or not you want to continue having them pay the fees the way you are, but I think we've seen in Livingston that it saves them a substantial amount of money.
And I think staff should advise us on that, since they're the ones that collect the fees. I think they would know best about the best way to do that.
What we did was we did an analysis of a SPUD, of a PUD, and of a subdivision development, and we took the fees that were charged from the previous engineering review agency, and we costed that to the fee that they had paid. And in some cases we were upside down, and then when you compared it to where we were revising our fees to, we just recently updated our fees, the amount that we are contemplating reducing the fees to really takes into account the fee that CSRS was charging us to review that plan. So what we're doing is really trying to balance out an application fee versus a review fee. You know what I'm saying? The new fee structure increase the fees substantially from where they were before, but now what we're contemplating is a reduction in that takes into account an engineering fee and an application fee, and those being pretty comparable. But, I mean, there were instances where we were upside down heavily from the engineering review fee.
So the parish will still collect the application fee?
Correct.
It's just the engineering fees that will go to the engineering agency?
Correct.
Well, I believe we started in that direction when we approved the request for a rehearing, because we implemented an application fee. But if there were any engineering assessments involved, then that was based on whatever time was spent. That was extra cost that the applicant would have to pay. And I don't remember that necessarily going to the parish. As far as I knew, that was supposed to go directly to the engineer. That may have went through the parish and it was reimbursed to the parish.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't. Charles isn't here, and he'd be the one, or is he? There he is. It went to the parish, and the parish. Mm-hmm. But I mean, that's right. But I mean, that was something that we had started. We were going in that direction.
It was all paid to the parish, and we in turn paid the
Okay.
And I think this will probably help a little bit on the submittal quality, in the fact that they're not going to release them to the parish until they're satisfied that all of the requirements have been established and approved. So I think we don't have this rush to get it in, get it on some deadlines, maybe not having a chance for staff to get it to the ERA. Is it good? Should we put it on the agenda? I mean, I think this would stop that, non-conformance, if you will, some of these submittals. So, we won't go forward until they say.
That was one of the key items that we talked about, is if we could get to a point where a submittal is made and it's made complete, and it doesn't come to you guys with 5 or 6 items missing, or 2 or 3 items missing, where you go, well, let's just defer it till they get it completed. We want it to come to you guys complete so you can rule on it as a complete package. And we feel like going through this process will allow us to do that, because every time they resubmit, they're going to redo an engineering review, and that's not what we want to do. We want them to submit a complete package, get it reviewed. If there's tweaks, we tweak it, and then come to you guys with it.
No, I see the benefits to it. I mean, I'm not trying to shoot this down. I'm just, I want to make sure we do it right the first go around and not have
To come back.
this issue to come back to us.
Right.
I mean, we've been dealing with that for a good while now.
I think looking at the contract, I don't see anything that has me concerned that it won't be reviewed by a professional engineer and we won't get,
And Ricky, why did we choose a
Book on.
6-month time period?
6 months gets us to the end of the year. We're continuing to advertise for a full-time engineer to be on staff, and we want to use this 6-month period for Fort and Tablada to figure out if they like working with us, and for us to figure out if this is what we want to continue doing. And it's basically it gets us to the end of the year.
Okay.
And this is your recommendation or the staff's recommendation to
Correct.
go this way?
Correct.
Any other questions? What is the wish of the commission?
I'll make a motion to approve the contract with the changes that we mentioned with the fees changes.
I have a motion by Sherry Slyman
I'll second
to
that.
approve, second by Beverly Barre. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm going to have to object. And the reason I'm objecting is because, and I understand the contract you gave us, but I'm just not comfortable agreeing to a document that I haven't read.
I think we have to trust staff.
I'm not saying I don't trust staff. I prefer to have it in front of me and read it and know.
Okay.
It's not that I don't trust staff.
It's 3-1. Do we need a majority?
Let me see if I can shed some light on this. Cedric Grant, Chief
Since our
Administrative Officer.
legal counsel isn't here.
I would like to get some unanimity here. What we need here is authorization to negotiate an agreement. We'll be happy to bring the agreement back, but we are in a situation where we don't have anyone providing the service to the Commission at this point. What I see and what I hear here is a paragraph that needs to be adjusted, which we can bring back to you at your regular meeting on next week. But we really would like to get the authorization to move forward to finalize the negotiations of this agreement. I don't, between now and your next meeting, I doubt very seriously if any work will be done on this, because it won't be finalized until we bring it back to you. But we would like to get this authorization.
If authorization is what you're looking for,
Yes, sir.
then I'll make the motion to authorize the parish to enter into negotiations with Fort and Tablata and work out the final contract.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and I guess I go back to the last motion. It was 3-1. We needed all 5. I think we have 8 commissioners to get the majority. We would need the 5. We need 100%. So therefore, that motion fails. So your motion is
My motion is to allow the parish to enter into negotiations with Fort and Tablata and come back with the final contract. And at that time, at next week's
Yes, sir.
meeting, and we'll vote on it then.
okay. Have a motion by Michael Marchand to enter negotiations with Fort and Tablata for a contract to bring back to the Commission next Wednesday night. It's a regular scheduled monthly meeting, seconded by Don Grant. All in favor?
Aye.
And I also vote in favor, so that gives us a 5-0. Motion carries. All right. Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Actually, I don't need a second. I found this out this weekend. So we're adjourned.